Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Seldin. This is Finding the Perfect Match. I'm here with my colleague Clint Lausch, and we are here to help you take a hard look at anything having to do with recruiting and retaining your ideal enrollment. Clint, this week, I believe our topic is going to be building your own dedicated AI assistant for your school that has your school's individual personality. I think you were going to start by talking about how we built Abigail.
Yeah, so let's and literally as I'm getting set up, my browser just crashed. I'm reopening it to bring up the document that I wanted to to review today. So I'm gonna try to get kind of signed back in here as I'm talking. But um and Tim, are you referring to Abigail as we're thinking about for the Family Alliance or just Abigail in general?
Well, I mean, Abigail is Abigail. So
Yeah.
Abigail is my personal AI assistant. I've been working with Abigail for the last almost 3 years now. I've trained her to know everything I've written. She monitors my email. Um, she speaks with my voice. I've loaded in all of the PDFs of the publicly available Montessori books, all kinds of information. And when Abigail writes, while she is AI, and I do have to clean it all up, she knows how I would answer a question. So she's become an invaluable tool for me in terms of getting more work done faster. And I know your topic today, Clint, is about how schools can do that. And we want to mention how Abigail has slid over to also work for the Montessori Family Alliance. Can you explain that for folks?
The Family Alliance?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Family Alliance is we'll call it, a new project that, Tim and I have been, well, let me take a step back. Tim, the Family Alliance has been around for how long at this point?
I think it was founded right at the beginning, 1992.
And
Originally, what
and
we called that, it was Tomorrow's Child magazine, but about, I guess, around 5 years ago or more, we realized that magazines were dying on the vine, and even though the content was good, we needed more than that. So we started the Family Alliance.
and so as AI is kind of coming to the forefront, and it's been here for a couple of years, and it's just moving so fast. And AI can be such a great tool now, especially when you start thinking about research. And we wanted to talk today about and we've had several of these sessions. How do schools use AI? How do schools use AI? And I feel like every time we talk about it, yes, there's some similarities, but there's also, how do we use it now? What platforms do we utilize? And one of the great things that we've been utilizing AI now in is with the Family Alliance and taking all of Tim's experience, the foundation's experience over the past, 30 plus years, putting that into a platform for schools and families to have access to that content, to that expertise, and then layering in AI, layering in, as Tim had described, Abigail, um, where now, if you go into our Family Alliance portal, if a parent is in there or if you're in there and you're querying the AI or you're trying to access content about a particular topic, it's not now just AI content, it's AI is helping facilitate access to over 30 years of content. And I think that's the real magic now with AI and really where things are going. Not to go down this rabbit hole, but if you kind of want to start thinking about where are we going with AI, where before it was you could just ask a question and AI would give you an answer like, oh, that's amazing. And you can still do that. And I still do that, but actually where it's going, if you listen to a lot of these tech gurus and where the world is going with AI, it's actually going to get more localized on your computer or on a particular topic. And so as we're talking today about how schools can use AI, we're even using it behind the scenes in our own resources, whether it's with software or the Family Alliance. So it's not just, hey, let's use AI to produce content. It's how do we train the AI on, and again, in the Family Alliance and the Montessori Foundation's example here, how do we give it 30 years of content? How do we give it hundreds of hours of video content? And then how do we layer that in to provide a really amazing resource for the schools and for the parents? So, Tim, did I miss anything in there and how we're thinking about it and how we're utilizing it?
Well, I think, just to give a few practical examples, parents that are part of the Family Alliance are not only going to be able to uh, get answers to basic questions that they might ask on anything from how to get my kid to eat Brussels sprouts to how to get him to go to bed or stop biting his sister. Um, but we've got much more, including, what gifts to get your child for the holiday, or how to keep them happy on a trip, a road trip, or what to get for a friend's bar mitzvah, or how to redecorate, your house to make it more Montessori friendly. Lots of things like that, very practical, including the ability to take a picture of your house, each room, and the AI creates not only written suggestions, but actually creates a visual of what it might look like, which is kind of cool.
That is cool. Yeah. So we're doing some really great things with AI and we're taking that idea of how we're using it and then ultimately how schools can use it, which is again, we want AI to be more customized to you, your school, your messaging, just as we wanted AI for the Family Alliance to be customized to the content that has come from Tim and the Montessori Foundation and the overall Family Alliance over the past 30 years. So that leads us into talking about um, how do you use AI as a school, right? Because it can be very, I'll call it surface level, right? Which is you go into AI and you say, hey, write me an email to a parent on a particular topic, right? And you can still do that. And there's a lot of platforms out there these days, and we'll talk about those. But I think one of the first things that I would recommend doing is um, is to actually customize your AI to your school, your messaging, your mission, and you can do that a lot easier now than you ever could before. And there's a lot of platforms out there now, and I think the two probably most popular ones are still remain ChatGPT. So many of you that are watching this are likely using ChatGPT. Claude is also becoming very, very popular. Now, also there's Perplexity and there's Grok with Twitter or X. There's Gemini with Google, and all of them can likely. And I'll be honest, I haven't. I've used them in a variety of capacity, in different capacities. I definitely use some more than others. I will say the two that I'm using on a regular basis are ChatGPT and Claude. How I used to be 100% ChatGPT. I will say I'm going more towards Claude these days. Um, for some of the purposes like we're talking about today, which is customization. Tim, what are you typically using on a regular basis?
Pretty much the same thing. My Tesla has Grok built in, so I interact with it pretty regularly, but I don't
Oh, that's
normally use
interesting.
it much. I do when I go to Google. I will often use AI, which is Gemini, and it does a nice job. I think the big thing is we've got to think about what are we using it for. And most people
Yeah.
use these tools as kind of a Google. You ask it a question, it gives you an answer. What tire do I need, or how do I install this, or my phone screen is cracked. What do I do? And it gives you very solid answers, but it can do a whole lot more than that, right?
I mean, it can. It certainly can. And I think where you start unlocking um, the use case for a lot of this is in how you customize it. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. That if anybody hasn't done this yet, I think this is one of the first actions you can take to allow AI to truly be your assistant. Now we're not going to get into how to turn AI into an agent. If you spend any time looking at AI these days, um, the hot topic are agents. How do you create agents to do things while you're away from the computer, right? We've been so accustomed to giving AI prompts. Hey, go do this, and it does it. Now we can actually give it prompts, or I shouldn't say prompts. I should say instructions that it can work while you're going out grocery shopping, while you're sleeping. It could be doing tasks. That might be a topic for another day where we get into that. But whether you're using it for prompts or whether you're using it truly for your as an agent, um, you have to customize it. You have to train it. And the way that I've always described AI, and I still view it this way, is that AI is like your intern that is sitting next to you working side by side. That's how it was originally kind of introduced as your intern. And just as you would hire an intern, you have to train it, train to not, no, let's not call your intern an it. You have to train your intern as you would train it, the AI. Now, this intern is getting smarter and smarter by the month, or so it seems, and can do a lot more even without all that training, but we still need to train it and we need to customize it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about ChatGPT today, Claude, just because that's where my expertise has been in terms of building a custom AI and then ultimately for your school, so that if you decide, hey, we want to put together a marketing campaign, we want to write emails, we want to write content, we need to write an email to a parent. It is all based on the foundation of your school. It's also based on the foundation of you, right? You can have your own kind of AI within the AI, if you will, where it's not just the mission of the school, but it's how do you speak, how do you write, which is going to be different than another person at your school and how they write. So it's not so much that you're necessarily going to have a big school AI account, even though you could. You probably want to start doing this at a personal level where you load in content about your school. And so one of the really cool things that you can start doing now is you can just have a folder sitting on your computer. Imagine you have a folder of content or a Google Drive folder of content. It's every piece of every article you've written for the past several years, every marketing campaign, every video that's been created. And now the AI has access to that. And now you can query the AI, or when you write something that's based upon what what's already been created in that tone and in that voice. And I think the sooner you can start doing that, it's just going to continue to make your life a whole lot easier when it comes to the things that you want AI to make easier, right? In our case, again, thinking about the Montessori Family Alliance, where it's okay, how do we deliver content to you? How do we deliver content to families? When literally, it was funny, Tim and I have been working on this, and there were what, over 1,300 articles, Tim, that you've had, inside the Family Alliance, and then
Yep,
several hundred videos. It's like,
at
what
least.
do,
Yeah.
yeah, what do we do with that? Right? And now with AI, we can just load that into a folder and then have that be the foundational or the foundation for all future content and the foundation for if you need to ask it a question, you're pulling answers from your existing content, right? So, and maybe what we can do is I was going to share some stuff. Um, let me see here. Let's edit it. I'm gonna pull up some stuff here um, in my own projects. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here. So everybody's probably going to wonder, okay, well, how do we actually do this? So the first thing that you're going to want to do if you're, I mean, first of all, here's the really cool thing that you can do. And maybe we start here. I'm going to keep this open. Let me. This is actually how I like to interact with. Now I'm using Claude here. You can do the same thing for ChatGPT. I'll hop over there in a second, but I'm using Claude AI. And one of the features that they have are projects. So what you want to do is you want to go over to your projects and create a new project. So or sorry, what you want to do is if you want to learn how to create projects and what projects are you name a project. So I'm going to call it, test project, right? Or here let's just call it Montessori Academy project, right? And we're going to create the project for the Montessori Academy. Now, what you can do in here now is add instructions, add files, add memory. So what you want to do is you create your project and then do all of your chatting in here inside of the project. So we can create a chat. Um, you know, I was going to create a chat, but you know what? Let me step back real quick. Before you start creating a chat, you're going to want to add instructions, add files. So right now, I guarantee you probably have a Google Drive folder of content. You obviously have your website, right? You might have blog content, social media content. You're going to want to start loading all of that into here as files. Upload from a device, connect your Google Drive. So start loading that in, and then any future prompt that you create will be based upon the files or instructions. And if you want help on how to do this, you can create a new chat, right? And you can say something like, you know, how do I create a project? Let me step back. I am an admissions director at a Montessori school, right? So put your school in there. I want to create a project that is learning and based on existing content, website files, let's see, existing content and website files for our school. How do I do this and why? Right. Probably not the best prompt in the world. I'm just kind of doing this very quickly. Um, but ultimately, we're going to let AI tell us what to do, right? It's going to tell us what is a project, why it matters. Now, I have a document here already where I've kind of done this and put this all into why customize AI for your school, understanding the platforms. There are a lot of other platforms. I think I don't want to sit here and give you a million options because somebody on here that's watching this might say, why use Perplexity? Why use ChatGPT? ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, they can all kind of do similar things. And I will share, we'll share this document with you that, and again, you can probably get a lot of this information as well just by querying ChatGPT or Claude. Um, but this goes through exactly how, where, again, if we're comparing ChatGPT versus Claude, what is possible in each, right? So I know ChatGPT, for example, it only allows you to upload 20 files, which sounds fine at first, but if you want to upload a lot, this is where I started like Claude, where I can just give it access to my Google Drive and or just upload tons and tons of content. You can actually get a team plan. I think that might actually be helpful. Similar pricing and tone is going to be the same based upon how you train it. Before I keep going, Tim, any thoughts, questions, comments, especially because you've customized Abigail for you. Um, any thoughts as we're progressing forward here and maybe
No, I
how you
think,
build it? Not to put you on the
yeah.
spot, but
Well, I mean, again, what I did was I had PDFs of files, and I started a project, and I said, this is, well, actually, no, it was at the beginning, and I said, this is who I am. And I started uploading all kinds of stuff. And then as time goes by, it remembers, especially with projects. So I have lots of big projects, and she knows all kinds of stuff. Every book, every article, it's all up there.
yeah, and so that's the other thing, right? As you get new stuff, just keep adding it to your project or your custom GPT. And so what we give you in this file here are example prompts, prompt templates to give the ChatGPT or Claude. Um, and you might want to bring your team into this as well, get their input. What content do they have? And you could build a big team database as well if you want this, or you can keep it personal. Um, and I'm looking through here to see if there's anything I want to focus on here. Let me go back into here. So what you can see here is, I mean, this is amazing what it created, right? It's like how to build a Claude project. Your admissions assistant. You add knowledge files, so they could be your website FAQs, your parent handbook, any sort of website copy. You can give it custom instructions. Now, if you need custom instructions on tone, role, or behavior, what you can do is you load in example content and say, please analyze this for tone, role, and for behavior rules. And it will give you the prompt for, and you load that into your project files. So then when it's grounded in these knowledge files and these custom instructions, your assistant can draft your emails, can answer questions, can write content that's going to be on brand, right? And then this will even walk you through how to do it, right? So I know I'm walking you through how to do it, but this is how to use ChatGPT. You want to or and Claude. You want to learn how to do something? This is what it's perfect for. Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. So I think first and foremost, this is really about just understanding capabilities. And once you understand these capabilities exist, then you can even have these AI platforms train you on how to do it and then execute it. So um, yeah, I would say the easiest way, I mean, you can start loading in your website URLs or just copying and pasting documents and just loading into the knowledge file. So if we go back to your project, you load in the instructions. You just type in instructions. If you need instructions, use AI to say, hey, I need instructions for how I want my tone. Please analyze my website and then give me a prompt for how all future content should be written. Same thing with files. Any files that you have, your handbook, your FAQ documents, anything, load that in. And then memory, by the way, if you load this into a project folder, it is going to remember everything that you've discussed in regards to this particular project. So you might want to start a chat about writing emails. You might have another chat about creating website content. Then you may have another chat about um, I always have my marketing hat on, but something related to I want to do Facebook ads. It's going to remember all the previous discussions that you've had, even if they're in separate chats. All right. So
Hmm.
this same thing you can do with ChatGPT, with Claude. You can't really go wrong with either one of these, and the concept is going to apply exactly the same, whether it's a project or custom GPT or a Claude project. Tim, was there anything I missed in terms of creating the
No,
project?
I think you covered it very well.
So the question becomes, what should you choose? I think you should try both if you haven't already. Try ChatGPT, try Claude. Like I said, I was 100% ChatGPT. I'm going more to Claude now. I'm finding the content creations a little bit better. I do like the fact that I can create projects and have unlimited files because as we create things like the Montessori Family Alliance and feed it content, I need essentially unlimited files to do that. Um, and so that's where I like Claude. So again, as we think about use cases, admissions communications, right? Um, You can draft response emails, follow up emails, create invitations, send out updates, right? So this is can just be for communication purposes. If you need social media content, I will say I think Claude does a really nice job on writing the content. If you need image creation, you're going to want to use ChatGPT typically for your image creation, or even I will say Gemini with Google also does really well with image creation or video creation. So social media content, I would look at ChatGPT or Gemini. Maybe you want to draft a parent newsletter, and again, I like Claude for that. If you want to do you can even think about new family onboarding. By the way, this is something that we created inside the Montessori Family Alliance. As we start rolling that out, we know how important onboarding is for new families and getting them acclimated to your school, understanding Montessori, understanding your volunteer system. That the onboarding process is so important. So again, you could use AI to help create that. And then we built that inside of the Montessori Family Alliance as well. And as you can see here, a lot of this has to do with communication, right? You can look at your board meeting summaries, load those in, right? Maybe you have your board meetings, you load those in. Maybe you have um, Zoom or Google Meet meetings with families, or maybe a virtual information session. Continue to load that into your project. And now all future communication is going to have that in their memory, right? You can use this for professional development, right? You can almost have like an AI tutor, um, or your AI is, built onboarding for new staff, right? So if you've got all of your handbook, your anything about your school is in this, you could say, hey, I need to build onboarding for a new hire, a new marketing director hire, a new teacher, a new admissions director. You're going to have this as your foundational element. Um, and as opposed to if you don't do this, if you don't build these projects, then you're always going to typically be starting from scratch, right?
Hmm.
So, and then yes, SEO and website content. I mean, there's probably even more use cases than this, but I think this gives the good foundation. I think a good starting point is just if you haven't done this already, I would do this immediately. Start building your project and then building onto it from there.
I think that's incredibly helpful. Again, um, one of the things that we're getting ready to do is to start a membership wing of the foundation we're calling the Circle. And it's the idea for many, many years, the Montessori Foundation talked about the way of Montessori leadership, which we think of as a circle of equals. So the Circle is going to be a community of schools, because once a school joins, all the administration and board are welcome to set up accounts and participate. Um, and I think you'll find the cost is very affordable, and it comes with a whole bunch of features, including free consultation for an hour and a half a year. It's three 30-minute sessions, discounts as long as you're a member, 25% off of any Montessori Foundation consulting or professional development you want us to offer. um, Regular weekly meetings and all kinds of things we're going to do. And one of the things we will do is help members solve very practical problems like what we're addressing today. The idea of how do you do something specific to set up your own AI, artificial intelligence agent to help you get more done with a small administrative team. So I hope you'll take a hard look at what we're doing. More information at montessori.org/, lowercase, by the way, the hyphen circle, or lowercase MFA, Montessori Family Alliance. So we hope you'll come and take a look and see whether you like what we're doing if you're not already a member. If you are already a member, thank you. We really appreciate you. Clint, anything else you want to offer to people today?
I think we covered a good portion of it. We'll always share these documents with you so that you have them. And again, I always like to have tangible takeaways. So when you leave here, what's one thing that I can go do? And that one thing would be hop into ChatGPT, hop into Claude, hop into any of these others, and create your first project if you haven't already. create a project, name it your school, and start telling it what you're going to want it to do, and then start loading in those files. It probably shouldn't take you very long. And if you do it one time, take an hour or two out of your to really learn it and set it up. It's going to save you so much time in the future.
Well, that's been great. Thank you, Clint. I so appreciate your time every week. Folks, we will send out the recording to everyone who is on our list, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. I believe next Tuesday, we're going to have a special guest from a company that you may or may not know called Chansey and Bruce. Chansey and Bruce is an early years um, I would call it a developmental screening assessment tool. For those of you who are running early childhood programs, you and I both know that there are all sorts of times when we want to take a deeper look at what's really going on with a child, whether it's in terms of their development, their speech, their language. They may have dyspraxia, they may not be able to coordinate their hands. It could be any number of different things. And it could be you're looking at an incoming child. It could be you're asking yourself, does this child need the gift of a fourth year in Montessori, or should we think about holding this child back from what most people would call kindergarten? There's a lot of tools out there, but most of them are not very useful. They're more academic. And what Chansey and Bruce has done is they've looked 360 degrees at what a child is like. I've seen things like this in the past, but the ones that I used to use are no longer available. The ones that I know of that are out there only look at part of it. So if you're interested in looking at young children and you want a validated, research based tool, this is something that I think is worth your time to look at. So join us next Tuesday at this time for a introduction to Chansey and Bruce. Meanwhile, on Thursday, for those of you who are going to join us, we're going to be having a guest by the name of Terry Holman. Terry is a tax planner, very different from a tax return generator. He is somebody who helps people like you and me plan ahead and ask, how can we reduce the amount of taxes we have to pay without violating any laws or rules? We want to do everything completely above board. But his argument is you got to plan this in advance. You can't wait until the year is over and say, how can I pay less tax? It's all about pre planning. So his company does a lot of things, including very, very affordable estate planning. If you have not set up a revocable family trust, you probably ought to talk to this fellow. I know I'm doing it myself. The bottom line is he's a very nice man, very interesting, has some great ideas, and I think you'll find next Thursday, this Thursday coming up rather, to be very, very useful. So, Clint, any last words from you, sir?
That's it. You nailed it.
Okay. We'll see you all next week. Bye bye, everyone.
See you, everybody.